Alright folks, today I'm here to give you my thoughts and feelings on The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon, The Book of Carol, episodes 3 and 4. As most of you know, I just went through a giant move, so I've been a bit behind on bringing you my thoughts on new episodes, so instead of reviewing them beat by beat, I'm just gonna highlight what I found to be interesting or annoying. And full disclosure, by episode 4, I do find myself more frustrated than excited. So starting out with episode 3. Anytime we see flashbacks to the fall, I get excited. It's a time that should be covered significantly more than it has been in this universe, so using it to tell the backstories of these new characters is a great idea that I wished was capitalized on more. Kind of like how Lost does flashbacks every episode. But seeing the Mona Lisa in general was really cool. I've always wondered what would happen to these valuable monuments to the past, so it's nice to see, even in Anarchy, people are taking care of these historic pieces. But the big revelation of this scene, Jana was just your average working-class citizen before the fall. I'm sure I, along with many others, expected her to have some government ties, but this is definitely an interesting direction to take. She really does represent the people taking power for themselves. Or at least she did, as in the modern day, Carol finds herself at Provor's headquarters where she witnesses the creation of the hybrid variants for the first time. The only revelation we get from this, it's basically confirmed the burners were a failed version of the hybrids, which is pretty much what I thought. The idea of experimenting on the dead is extremely interesting, but I don't think it's being used to its fullest potential. What the hell is this serum? What is it made of? How does it spread through a walker if they don't have blood pumping? Why are American walkers and French walkers different when it comes to these experiments? With so few episodes left, they're really running out of time to give us answers. And don't even get me started on the World Beyond post-credit scene. At this point, I'm kinda just convinced they've scrapped the whole variant cohort Primrose thing and replaced it with hybrids in Provor. Which, as a lore guy, that is something that will bug/disappoint me forever if that is the case. Now, back at the nest, Sylvie is immediately privy to what is happening with the whole Laurent bite ceremony and naturally starts freaking out. And after getting cornered, she would get pushed to her death while struggling to get away. I can't help but feel like The Walking Dead has been rather trigger-happy with its newly introduced characters in these spin-offs. I always assume anybody brought into the main group's fold at this point in the franchise is meant for something big, but I guess that doesn't have to be the case for everyone. However, I will have more to say about this topic in episode 4. Now, the actual biting ceremony went pretty much as expected. Daryl, Isabel, and Falou arrive at the very last second to prevent the now turned Sylvie from ripping Laurent's neck open. Which, what the F? Is the goal to see if he turns or to see if he's capable of bleeding out? But panic would follow as Daryl escorts Laurent away while Losang orders his people to find them. And as Daryl separates from the rest to buy them time for escape, we get a really awesome John Wick-style one-take scene where Daryl absolutely massacres every Union soldier he sees. It's an exciting sequence, but eventually his luck runs out as he's captured and taken to Losang, who imprisons him along with Isabel, who is separated from Falou and Laurent during her escape. And with Isabel slightly alluding to going back to America with Daryl and Laurent, their side of the episode essentially wraps up. Now, over on Carol's side of the story, she encounters the still imprisoned Caudron, who essentially tells her exactly where to find Daryl at the nest, after she manipulates him by telling him Daryl's her brother. Which shows us Caudron really has been disillusioned to Pavor, despite giving up their location when tortured. But once ratted out by her new friend on her escape plans for Daryl, Carol lies once again to Janae, claiming she's there to find and kill him herself. And having everything aligned for an assault, Janae, along with Carol and their forces, head out for the nest before arriving at nightfall. But you see, the primary soldiers in this fight weren't the Gurriers, as Janae talks of sacrifice while lining up the civilian Pavor supporters, before cutting to black. Kind of a weird place to end the episode, but I assume it was to avoid a Carol death cliffhanger, which, yeah, I definitely prefer. Overall, I did enjoy the story of this episode, but I can feel my frustrations building with the lack of information on what's going on with the variants. Seeing them in action is really cool, but understanding them is what I'm all about. Sylvie's death kind of just happens, but to be honest, these spin-offs have conditioned me to anticipate most minor character deaths, so I wasn't that surprised. I think Jana's mission of cleaning up France using the hybrids is a really interesting plotline, but again, we're heading away from France as spoiled by AMC for Season 3. So logically, all these plotlines are gonna have to wrap up soon, and we rarely see antagonists win in this franchise. But overall, I think I'd give this episode a loose 7 out of 10. Not horrible or anything, but the lack of episodes this season at its pace and the external knowledge of a new beginning starting next season is starting to affect my excitement. All the new cast members being announced and the new location is giving me Fear Season 4 reboot vibes, which makes me fear a hasty ending. But moving on to episode 4. We open with the immediate solution of the last episode's cliffhanger as Jana orders the deaths of all the Pavor followers brought by her command, before injecting them all with the hybrid serum, creating a horde of runners that Carol conveniently survives before fleeing in a car with Caudron tied to the back as she happens to lead the herd right where Jana wanted at the Nest gate. The visuals of seeing an army of runners at night is probably one of the coolest things to come out of this franchise in recent memory. But again, I wish there was just a little more lore behind them. But it is what it is. This is a cool sequence and nothing's gonna take away from that. Regardless, once inside the now blown up gate, Carol frees Caudron while the runners begin to tear into the Union members left and right. This type of scene shot at night is exactly the kind of horror this franchise has been needing, and I absolutely loved it. What I didn't love, however, while getting interrogated by Lo Sang, Isabel takes a swing on him with a knife, leaving a small cut on his face that he responds back with a blade to her stomach, as he shows just how fragile his ego really is. And after leaving her for dead, Isabel would gather the strength to make her way outside, where she comes face to face with Carol for the first time while bleeding out, before informing her where Daryl is being kept. And once free of his chains, Daryl uses a Morning Star, which has arguably become an iconic weapon of his, to rip through a pack of runners, before reuniting with his long-lost best friend. Now, it's a sudden reunion for sure, but the lack of dialogue is absolutely perfect. The two just whimper while hugging each other, knowing just how much it took for Carol to get over there to find him. However, this great scene is immediately juxtaposed with the death of Isabel, who essentially asks Daryl to bring Laurent to America with her dying breath. I don't like that Isabel died, but I do like the contrast of Daryl losing someone close to him while gaining his best friend once again. But Daryl already lost a love interest very recently. I just can't help but feel Isabel could have been a fantastic addition to the Commonwealth if there was ever to be stories told there again. When presented with a place that looks like the old world, would she slip back into her old habits? Or would she continue to maintain her responsibility as a parental figure despite the lack of danger? Well, now we'll never know. I'm pretty disappointed a lot of these characters don't have grander purposes for the overall universe. Isabel now especially feels like she was filling in the Carol void until she came back. We're supposed to be expanding, but the cast has kinda just stayed the same. I don't know, maybe you feel different about it. Let me know in the comments down below. Now, as the nest is taken over by Pavor, Daryl and Carol set out in hopes of finding Laurent and Falou, but while walking, we get a scene I did not enjoy at all. Remember the whole someone came back phone call mystery from season 1? Well, it turns out it wasn't a person at all. It was a feeling things were gonna go bad. So there you have it, folks. We were actually baited. Boo, fail, that wasn't cool, and now I'm frustrated for the rest of the episode. But while on their search in the countryside, Daryl and Carol encounter a friendly elderly couple that were pretty charming and gave great hospitality, until they betray the two by calling Jana directly and selling them out. But having second thoughts, the elderly woman attempts to protect them by lying, allowing Carol to get the jump on the Gurriers. But as it looks like Jana has Carol dead to rights as she stands over her, Daryl appears out of nowhere to take out her goons while Carol uses the opportunity to shoot her with the hybrid serum, killing her in an agonizing death. Now, a couple things to say here. The first, there are a shocking amount of times characters will shoot someone from behind at the very last second. It happens like twice in this scene alone. It is crazy. And the second, we're really just clearing house here. Remember in the premiere when I said I didn't feel like it would serve the story well for Jana to die yet? Well, it's 3 episodes later and she hasn't really done a whole lot since, yet here we are with her death. I get that we're moving on to a new story next season, but the most interesting aspects of the French plotline are being wrapped up extremely fast. I would have much preferred a plot where Jana's plans come to fruition, forcing Daryl and Carol to flee to a neighboring country as she enacts her mission to take back France. But nah, she dead. I hate sounding frustrated in these videos, but the truth is, I kind of am. Again, we're supposed to be expanding the universe, but anytime a new character comes to shake things up, they're gone before we can see their potential play out. But as the episode comes to a close, we see what's left of Pavor's leadership come to Lausanne for a proposal, to come together for a united cause in order to find Laurent. Now, this episode frustrated me way more than any other, even though it had great production value. I love the set design, I love the cinematography, I love the atmosphere, and I love the visuals of the runners. Everything about the filmmaking aspects of the show I love, but right now I have to be honest, the story is falling flat for me. I haven't looked at any discussion online about these episodes, so I'm not sure if I'm in the minority, but as these French characters begin to die off one by one without any major revelations coming from them, my interest fades, as I know this is all going to be wrapped up in a couple episodes as we move onto a brand new story. I've been really trying to figure out what exactly the show is about. With the Dead City Season 2 teaser, we see a clear direction and theme. Power is power, as half of Manhattan lights back up with Negan's rise to leadership. A great hook and a great theme. This has implications for the future, but everything happening in the Daryl show is preventing change from happening in the world. What if Laurent is the cure? We're probably never gonna know now if they succeed in bringing him back to America. And what if Pavor did reclaim France fully? Well, with Jana dying and these plotlines being wrapped up, I bet this isn't going to come to be either. Since the end of The Ones Who Live, we as fans have been looking for direction on where this franchise is going, and with the experiments on walkers featured in the previous season seeming to be of importance going into the Book of Carol, I had high hopes this plotline would have major implications for the future, but that doesn't seem to be the case. It seems like they want the roadshow and they're gonna get it. But what do you guys think? For me, I think this episode was about a 6 out of 10, maybe a 7 out of 10. I really want to enjoy the show, but my frustrations are building, and you gotta be honest in these reviews, otherwise, what's the point? So please, let me know what you thought of these episodes in the comments down below. Do you think the deaths we saw were good additions to the story, or do you think they could have had grander purposes in the future? As always, thank you so much for watching.